Hey everyone, welcome back to the Good Girls podcast. Today we're going to dive into something that almost every single woman in our community struggles with at some point, and that is sleep. And honestly, Angela, you're going to come on in just a minute and talk about this too. But, one thing that's so interesting is I feel like it's so normalized that people are now like wearing this as a badge of honor, or it's almost like very common to talk about where people are like, I can't sleep. I only slept 4 hours. People are talking about this all the time. And then they come to us, and sometimes that's their number one complaint. And they've done enough research to see, hey, is my gut kind of connected to this no sleep thing? So the reality is of all of this, it is very difficult to heal and rest and sleep and recover the way that we're supposed to. And so let's dive into that a little bit today and talk about this hot topic, which is sleep.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to say like today that when you are not sleeping, it's not just like, a roll of the dice. People are like, it's one night I'm here, one night I'm there, I can't figure it out. It's really not random. Diane and I love to say that your body is communicating with you. And one thing that you guys have heard us repeat so many times is the way to figure that out is journaling, because every day brings different stressors and every day can look a little bit different. And so if you want to know why you're not sleeping, we need to know what's happening outside of just that sleep window. And sometimes, just as a little teaser, we're going to talk about all this today, but sometimes it's blood sugar instability, believe it or not. And people are like, hey, what does blood sugar have to do with my sleep? Sometimes it's even just a nervous system overload. Sometimes it's your liver, which we're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about the difference between people not being able to fall asleep and people waking up, so the people that can't stay asleep. And again, little teaser, the liver definitely is a part of it. And then sometimes it's even just inflammation. Sometimes it's histamine. You guys have heard us do podcasts on histamine, on mast cell activation syndrome. And guys, histamine can be a big problem as to why you're not sleeping. And then what about cortisol dysregulation? Diana, what about those people that are chugging coffee all day? Like, we are going to talk about all of this. And so honestly, it is a combination of things. And the good news is there's actually a lot of simple things that you can do to really change your sleep routine. And we are going to leave you with some of those applicable steps today, because that is what we love to do.
I love that. And so let's just dive in with these kind of two big categories that you hinted on just a minute ago, which is there's two categories of women. There's one that cannot fall asleep, and there's one that they're like, I can fall asleep, I just can't stay asleep. So tell us a little bit about those people that wake up, the ones that have trouble falling asleep, and then the ones that wake up at that 2 or 4 o'clock hour, and then they're wide awake at that time. So talk about how that physiologically really what happens in our bodies during that time.
Yeah, so these are definitely two different conversations. So the person who struggles to fall asleep, if that's you, maybe you, are like, goodness, my brain just spirals at nighttime. I just run through the list of to-dos, the list of worries, all the things. So if this is you, that has to do with cortisol. Their cortisol is elevated at night. And if you guys don't remember what cortisol is a natural hormone that your body makes. We like to call it our stress hormone. To have some levels of cortisol is absolutely good. You actually need it to wake up during the day. So how funny, for some of you, it's actually keeping you up at night. Cortisol is what should be waking you up in the morning. The opposite hormone of that is melatonin, which is also a natural hormone that should be helping you fall asleep at night. So for these people, their brain is racing and their body doesn't feel safe enough to fully power down. Okay, so if that is you, guys, I want you to think about a couple things. Why I would go back, Diana, to why is your cortisol high at nighttime, right? And Diana, what's the number one thing we tell people? If you are trying to regulate your cortisol levels at night, we actually want to start with them first thing in the morning, right? And Diana, I know that your morning routine is something that has changed. That's a totally different routine for you. You drastically changed it. So kind of talk about the difference maybe of what your routine was like and what it's like now.
Well, I would say I did what most people did. I dragged myself out of bed in the morning, feeling exhausted. Now, one thing that's probably different than me than most of the women in our community is I don't drink coffee. I never have, but I did drink a Diet Coke. And so I thought I've got to have my Diet Coke every single morning, first thing. And of course, we're rewinding back into 2015, 2016 when my kids were little.
Wait, you had a Diet Coke first thing in the morning? I don't know if I knew that. I don't know if I remember that. Oh, my stars. Okay, keep talking.
Every morning it was a Diet Coke. I felt like I could not live without that Diet Coke. But I was like, I'll fast through breakfast. I don't need anything. That's not messing up my blood sugar. I mean, I didn't even know what that was at that point, blood sugar. And so I would start my day with Diet Coke, and I didn't really eat anything until probably around 11 o'clock. That's how my day started. And now my day starts very different. I love to get outside as quick as I can first thing in the morning. This is why I love spring, summer, fall. I'm not a winter girl at all because I want to go outside. I want to be warm. I want to feel the sun first thing in the morning. I'm obsessed, honestly, kind of with my flowers. So I make sure that I get the sunlight first thing in the morning. I take my warm bone broth outside with me. I water my flowers, do something that feels so good to me. And that really, as crazy as it sounds, that really just making those small lifestyle changes and using those kind of tools can make a difference for your sleep at night. And I can promise you that I was in your same boat, whether it's a Diet Coke or a coffee that you're stumbling to. Hopefully after you listen to this, that's not something that you have to do anymore.
Yeah. And just if people are shocked as if they're like, how do those compare, Diet Coke and coffee? I mean, coffee definitely is going to have the caffeine, and the Diet Coke, guys, the word I just used earlier, inflammation. I mean, the ingredients in that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I almost compare it to like oil in a car, like the oil that you put in a car. Like that's what I think about. And so for you to start your day with that, I'm like, oh my gosh, your body wanted minerals and electrolytes. It wanted to wake up, and gosh, you just made it more stagnant and weighed it down in the morning. And so guys, we're talking about the morning. We got kind of to this topic because if you're starting your day in that physiological state, ramped up on caffeine, loaded of inflammatory drinks, like Diana said, that is going to actually trigger your nervous system, which, remember, your nervous system is that internal communication system inside your body. It's how it perceives the world around you. Guys, it is going to be on a roller coaster all day, and your blood sugar is going to follow that. And so all day long, you're riding this wave, right? Like this roller coaster wave. How do you think you are going to wind down at night? Like I think of a kid like on sugar all day long. Like that's because I have little kids. So I'm like, guys, gosh, I could picture a child waking up and starting their day off that way. Do you think you're going to be able to wind them down at night? It's going to be a disaster. And so for you people that are struggling to fall asleep and your mind is racing, the first thing Diana I would tell you is start with that morning routine. It is essential.
And whether you're an adult listening or if your child is having trouble sleeping, I want you to really listen to this podcast, this episode, and what we're talking about, because some of you may be like going, well, I don't need to listen to this. I don't have a blood sugar problem. I've never been told I have prediabetes, and my kid certainly doesn't. But guess what, guys? It still makes a difference. Exactly what Angela is talking about, that roller coaster of what we experience throughout the day. We want to regulate that. And that's what helps us. Now, this may not be the only thing, but this is one tool that you for sure can do. Use these little tiny lifestyle changes to kind of help with that circadian rhythm that our body really truly wants. We want to go to sleep when it's dark at night. We don't wake when the sunlight comes out, and enjoy that in the morning, and let that be what starts our day. So whether you're, if you're sitting there thinking, I've never been told by a doctor that I have any blood sugar problems, you may not truly have we're not diagnosing you with diabetes or anything like that, but it is still that blood sugar dysregulation, which we're seeing that happen a lot with people.
Yeah, I think people don't understand that concept. You nailed it, because I also have a lot of clients that come to us and they'll say, I've tracked my blood sugar and it's actually really low. Like it's so low. I must be so healthy. And I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, I'm like, no, no, no. There is a line where it should stay, like this regulation line, like all day long. If you're not looking, I'm just like using my hand. And what we do is when we eat so much sugar, and I think of the diet sodas that you mentioned, the caffeine, it spikes it so high. And then if that line is here, what happens is it crashes so low. And so sometimes it's when are they testing their blood sugar? Are you testing it, only 2 hours after a meal, which is what a lot of people are told. And what I also encourage people is if you're testing it, test it 30 minutes after a meal, because I want to see how high is it spiking. It might regulate, some people's will regulate out, or some people's 2 hours post meal will be low. And I'm like, okay, but what is it 30 minutes after a meal? Did it go up to like 150? You know what I mean? Did it go up to 100? Like these are high numbers. Did it go up so high that it just plummeted so low? That you want to see the trend, right? So that's really, if you are someone who's like, I've already tested my blood sugar, it's fine, it's low, I'm just encouraging you, check it again and check it at different times. And then the other thing I would mention too, as we're talking about these people that can't fall asleep, Dinah, and we're talking about the nervous system, I would encourage you guys to absolutely try to find little pockets of time. It doesn't have to be long at all. It could literally be a minute. There is something out there called like the 1 minute pause. It's a little bit more spiritual based, but it could be a minute. It could be 5 minutes, where throughout the day you check in with yourself. Like just check in, where you're like, how am I doing? Because a lot of times we wait to check in with ourselves until we're laying in bed about to fall asleep. And then it's like a child that you haven't let talk all day long, and your body just starts going. It's like, oh my gosh, I have all these things that's going on because you didn't let yourself take a minute to like breathe and check in all day long. So if you take like a minute pause, maybe, gosh, at the most, maybe every 2 hours during the day, take a minute pause, check in. How am I doing? How do I feel? And if you do that, what you'll actually find is your body will speak to you. Maybe you're feeling a little bit of anxiety. Okay, well, let's deal with that now. Like, let's go for a quick 5-minute walk around the block. Let's let our body get that out now, so it's not all built up right before bedtime. And Dana, I love that you intentionally have brought more like daily walks in. Like every time we'll talk. Dana and I talk 20 times a day, if not more. And she's like, put your headphones on. I'm going to take a little, walk around my driveway or walk up and down my driveway. Let's talk and I'll walk. So Dana, you speak to that, because you definitely brought that into your life more.
Yeah. And when you talk about the anxiousness, I'll get it out eventually here. That's not a word that I throw out a whole lot, but it's something that I just kind of recognize that, hey, like, I need to take a moment. Just like you said, I just need to take a moment for myself. And there's really kind of two reasons that I do it. One is exactly what you're talking about. It just gives me, it's kind of my out. It's my release, right? So some people it's, doing a harder workout. Some people it's, I don't know, going for a hike or whatever the case may be, or hopping on their horse or, whatever, just to go for a ride. But for me, it's just like walking, just getting some of that movement in is so good for me. And then the second reason is I really do believe that post meal, it helps so much with digestion. Not that I have a lot of indigestion or anything like that, but it just helps. I feel like after dinner, I usually try to go within the first 10 to 15 minutes. We'll clean the dishes really quick. And then even my girls they're like, y'all going for your walk again? Because that's when me and Todd get to go and walk together, and we talk to each other instead of the girls being the ones talking. And so that's our time together. And so that's kind of my release. We come in and then we kind of wind down for the night. So we have this new routine that I just absolutely love. It's so good for my soul, for my health. And it's honestly almost kind of a non-negotiable. Not that I don't ever give it up, but if there's times that we have been at a ball game late or, something like that, we'll still throw our tennis shoes on. And just like you said, even Todd will walk up and down the driveway with me, even if it's just for 3 or 4 minutes. So just instilling new patterns like that into your life can make such a big difference. Just those little check-ins like Angela was talking about.
Well, and I love that what you just said, because to me, what came up in my mind was like, it's not perfect all the time. So, because a lot of people are like, oh, I can't get my 30 minutes and I'm not going to do it at all. And so you're basically saying, no, even if it's 3 to 4 minutes, just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what we do. But I will say, as we kind of go into this next part, we talk about a lot. it is talking about protein and our meals. And so this is kind of a nice segue into what a routine looks like. And that means always making sure that we have protein at least 3 times a day, each meal, a sit down. And so, Angela, tell us a little bit more about kind of the science behind why the protein matters at each meal and why does that affect your sleep?
Well, okay, so great question. We do. I'll actually add a little bit to this, but let's start with the protein. So the protein, guys, when that breaks down into amino acids, and that helps so much in our body. I mean, that helps us build muscle. It helps our metabolism. I mean, it helps a lot of functions that we don't even think about that have to occur in our body. So if throughout the day, like Dana said, you're not getting enough protein, a lot of those like background functions that are so innate are not happening, and they need to happen for detoxification. I mean, that's one of the biggest one. You need protein for detoxification. And if you're not doing that throughout the day, guys, when you sleep, one of the biggest things that happens is detoxification. So you're either going to end up with, just a buildup at the end of the day. And this could be why people that's the other category. They're waking up at 2 or 3, which we'll talk a little bit more about, but that could be one of the reasons why. Yes, blood sugar also plays a role in that, meaning like so this is why we said sleep is so complicated, but protein works for detoxification, but also blood sugar. So if you're eating enough protein throughout the day, your blood sugar stays on that steady path, which is going to help you then wind down safely, calmly into a good night's sleep. But if you're missing that protein, a lot of things aren't even happening during the day. Like I said, you're going to have a hard time winding down. But even just that, when you go to detoxify, when the liver goes to detoxify, like around 2 or 3 a.m., it's just not going to happen well. And you potentially can get woken up from that. And then I'll even go on the other side of protein, because we talk so much about that, but then carbohydrates. Dan, you and I recently had a conversation about this, that I think a lot of people underestimate the power of carbs. But this is a complex topic, because I don't want you to hear this and then be like, one of the gut girls said, go and eat more carbs. So we did a podcast a while back with Dr. Adriana, and she mentioned, I love that podcast, but she mentioned where, gosh, she was eating upward of like, I think it was like 150 to 60, maybe even higher carb, maybe 180 something carbohydrate grams of carbs per day. So you guys are going to be like, wow, that's a lot. But if you listen closely to that podcast, she was hitting a really high gram of protein per day. I don't remember the exact amount. It might have been, gosh, it was pretty high. It was way over 100, I'll say that. And so 2 things here. One, carbs are essential to help you fall into sleep. They literally do help you fall into a deeper sleep and stay asleep, but they only work that way if you've hit your allotted amount of protein during the day. So they both need to be considered. It's not one or the other, it's both. And this also works for kids. Dinah, you had mentioned little ones earlier, but if they're under eating their protein throughout the day, their blood sugar is going to be all over the place. And then if they're not getting adequate carbohydrates alongside that throughout the day, they also are not going to sleep well. This is where like giving your kid, like Dinah, I think you had mentioned too, like the importance of giving your kids potentially a snack, like a good snack before bed if your child is someone who is waking up in the middle of the night. But that's not the only, like, it's not a rescue, right? Like just a snack before bed is not a rescue. You've got to think about how they're eating all day long, and then they may need that additional snack before bed. So Diana, what would you recommend giving for a parent who's listening, giving their kid a snack? What would that look like before bed?
I mean, we talk about pairing macronutrients. So of course, obviously we're going to want one part of that to be a protein. So you can do things like a little bit of Greek yogurt with maybe some chia seeds, maybe just a small amount of berries, something like that. We don't want to shoot the carbs up to like super sugary carbs. Like, you don't want to give them a whole banana, probably something like that. So berries are lower glycemic, which means they process them easier. They don't spike the sugar quite as much. And so something like that would be good. You could do some like a turkey roll up or something simple like that. Maybe make a protein smoothie and then you and your child split it or something like that. Even doing maybe a little bit of an apple, maybe eat half of the apple, your child or your partner, your spouse, or whoever eat the other half and put a little bit of nut butter, you get the point. We're not just doing like one thing. It's not, it's not wine or ice cream or whatever. Those things are not going to help you sleep, even though you may think that. But over time, if you start pairing this protein with this carbohydrate, those things are actually going to help you fall asleep. So if your child or yourself or whatever you're having a hard time, for your child, it may be, they've had these sugary things, especially we're right here at the very end of school right now. It seems like there's parties and popsicles and all kinds of stuff going on. And so that's the child version of it. But the adult version of it is we're busy. We're trying to make it to the awards ceremonies. We are running on coffee and caffeine and, maybe sugary drinks or whatever, barely having a little lunch or something. Then I'm starving at night. I mean, no wonder we can't sleep, right? And I'm throwing myself here too. I don't have problems sleeping. I mean, I'm just saying, we have this busy life. It's really, really challenging. So doing something like that can make such a big difference to balance their we've got to work on balancing their nervous system a little bit, giving them that little bit of snack at night to kind of help regulate the blood sugar. And so all of these things can help just create a little bit more stability as they go into sleeping. And so, Angela, this I feel like is kind of the perfect segue for me to take you into, okay, so if we get those people to sleep, now we have these other people that you've kind of hinted on it a couple of times where they're waking up at the 2 to 3 to 3 o'clock hour. And you mentioned something about the liver and detoxing. So tell us about that kind of category of people that aren't able to sleep.
This, it's the person that comes to my mind for this. And I'm not, if this is you and if you're waking up at 2 and 3 and you're like, that's not me. Okay, I'll have a few other comments too, but the one prototype that comes to my mind is the person who drinks wine. You mentioned it before going to bed, because wine, it has a lot of it. I will not lie, it does have some polyphenols in it, so that's a good thing for the body, but it's also high in histamine. And so what happens is for people that are drinking wine to fall asleep, they're typically waking up at that 2 to 3 hour because it's high histamine. And a lot of times, like you said, Dinah, they're not eating enough protein throughout the day, so it's almost like a mix of their blood sugar is off and they're ending it with wine. So guys, yes, your liver has to detoxify that alcohol, right? And it's not just the alcohol, it's the histamine load from the alcohol. And so what can happen is, again, at that 2 or 3 a.m. Mark, the body is struggling. There's such a high load of histamine. The blood sugar is so dysregulated, it is going to wake you up. And so that's one thing, guys. I mean, I would say cut out the wine to see the difference. But if you're someone that has to have that glass, what's so interesting is, I'm not saying this is necessarily right, but my family is, they are Italian down to the bone, like 100% Italian. And my grandfather always had a shot of wine after dinner, but it was like the darkest wine. I forget where he got it from, but it was red wine, but it was a shot glass. And so I thought that was interesting, because I'm not saying even a shot glass is, good. I'm not allotting like alcohol in general is good, but the amount was so small. You know what I mean? And so it was interesting to me that that's all he had. Just a little shot glass. It would sit there. He'd eat all his dinner, and then he'd wait. Back then I feel like we sat around the table forever. Everyone had to be done eating. It was like the old, school thing. And so then he would just drink that and he'd be done for the night. And it was just interesting to me. So if you have to have it, make it a super small amount. But also I think what's important is your day needs to be spot on. That protein, that, the right type of carbohydrate, and the checking in with your nervous system, all that stuff needs to happen in order for your liver to not overreact at 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I would say opposite, the person who is very undernourished. I know you mentioned this, but I mean, we get this so much when people are, they've skipped so many meals that, gosh, their body is just screaming out for them at that 2 or 3 time, that 2 or 3 a.m. time of day, or time of morning, I should say, because the body's going to go into detoxification no matter what. And if you are undernourished, basically the liver's like, I'm trying to do my job and I don't have enough here. Like I'm going to wake you up to go get me more nutrients because I need to process this. And that can happen too to our kids. Like we said, if you are the type of parent who is like, hey, I want my kid to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner only. And we stick to the rules. There's nothing else. I actually love that. But I've actually had a lot of parents over the years be like, my kid is constantly waking up. And I have to remind them, your kids are growing too. So like, I love the rules. I love the boundaries around about you eat what you get, but also remember there are seasons of growth and neurological growth that, like Diana said, that little extra snack is going to help them, even if, they didn't eat their dinner. I've experienced it myself, make them something small right before bed just to help. But yeah, I think, Diana, the alcohol is probably the biggest thing that I see wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. I'll kind of switch that back to you. You have a lot of patients that, like, I'm curious to know, supplement wise, what do you find helps in that category the most, other than just the nutritional advice that we're giving?
Yeah, my mind actually went to, when you were talking about growing, my mind went to a 16-year-old that I worked with about a year ago, I would say. He was homeschooled and his mom was having a hard time with him. He wouldn't go to sleep at night, or if he did, then he woke up in the middle of the night. And so he just kind of had this, 16 years old, playing video games, having just this weird schedule or whatever. And so she wanted him to work with me. And so we did the most basic things, because again, he's 16, so I'm not going to add 7,000 things for him to do. And I was like, I want you to do 3 things. The first one is, as soon as at 8 o'clock in the morning, no matter what, you set your alarm and you get up and you go outside at 8 o'clock every morning. And then you go out there for 10 minutes, come back inside and eat 3 eggs. And those are the first 2 things that you have to do. And the third one, to answer your question, I said, let's add some magnesium about 2 hours before you go to bed. I love magnesium glycinate. The Designs for Health magnesium glycinate is great. And do those 3 things only. And so his mom would kind of check in with me like, yeah, he's doing it, or he hadn't done it for the last 2 days. And I'm like, make sure he does, literally that's all she changed for him. And about 5 or 6 weeks later, she sent me a picture of him building cabinets in his garage at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was amazing. Like, he's so incredibly talented, but he was kind of stuck in this cycle, honestly, of anxiety and depression. He was not doing well. And so I was like, she was like, it's amazing to me that only these small things have made such a big difference. He's sleeping at night. He gets up, he makes his breakfast, he gets his schoolwork done, and then he goes outside and look what he can do. And he built these cabinets. So that's what makes me think, I know I answered your question in a very long-winded way, but I had to share with you how incredible it is that this 16-year-old boy took it upon himself to do those 3 things that were so simple, added that magnesium glycinate in. And then he was doing fantastic now. Mm-hmm. And so then he started adapting a lot of other lifestyle things. So it's really cool. But so the magnesium, I'll answer the question now. The magnesium, taking that about 2 hours before you go to bed is fantastic. I do have people that use, and we'll talk about this more about CBD. That's something that I'm a big fan of. It's not something that I love to rely on heavily, even though I do talk about the fact that I use it as a supplement, and I have for about 8 years now. And I use it for nervous system regulation. It helps me just kind of turn my mind off and wind down a little bit at night. It has a little bit of ashwagandha with it. And the 2 of those things together just really help my body relax and kind of turn those things off. And again, what I'm doing is I'm not trying to necessarily band-aid anything, but I am using it as a tool to kind of allow my nervous system to relax and recover. It's interesting though, I'm not in such like a stressful state right now that I have been in. And so I find myself not needing it quite as much because I have more time to not be so crazy busy. And we're going to talk about that soon on another podcast, why my life is a lot more flexible now and not quite so stressful. But Anyway, so those are the supplements that I love to consider using for those people, but mostly it would be starting with magnesium. Of course, you can use things like lemon balm, valerian root, some of those things. We have kind of a whole supplement list of some of those that if you're during high stress times, if you need to add something for that support during that time, or as you're trying to heal, kind of doing everything, driving down inflammation and kind of trying to pull the whole picture together, it's great for times like that.
Yeah, I use in our house the kit, there's a calm powder out there. It's magnesium citrate on the market for adults, but there's a kids calm, and it's actually it's a magnesium citrate but with magnesium glycinate. So it's both, because magnesium citrate, so a lot of people don't even know what magnesium they're on. Sometimes I have clients that are like, I take magnesium. I'm like, which one? And they're like, I don't know. But magnesium citrate can help. So magnesium in general can help relax the muscles, like in general. So muscle relaxation, nervous system relaxation. But like magnesium citrate can kind of target the gut a little bit more, to where it can actually even relax you so much for motility that you get more bowel movements. So you want to be cautious, because you don't want to take too much of that, because you could have diarrhea and cramps from that. But the magnesium glycinate, I think, touches the nervous system a little bit more. And so I like that combination that I have for the kids. And then I love the ashwagandha. I just have it in a tincture, and it's almost, I've paired it with throughout the day. I take it many times throughout the day, but it's like that moment where I said that 1 minute pause, where I literally pause and I'm like, how am I doing? And if I'm starting to feel like, okay, things are revving up inside, I will take a little, just dropper full. And then I take a minute after that to just try to relax. So I've paired them together. And I think that is more powerful than just a supplement itself. And so guys, this is basic information, right? You can apply this tomorrow. That's what I love about what we do here at the Gut Girls. But I also just want to say, if you think a supplement's going to be the magic bullet, it's not, because people come to us and they're like, I've tried the ashwagandha, I've tried the magnesium, it doesn't help. So Diana and I always are like, okay, but what about all the other stuff that we just talked about for 20, 25 minutes on this podcast? If you're not doing all that, that supplement's not going to touch what you want it to touch.
Yeah, and I will say even a step further with the supplements, if you're underhydrated, and that means under mineralized, you're literally not getting in the sodium, the potassium, the magnesium that you need, then your cells aren't going to absorb those nutrients that you're eating. You're trying to do this perfect diet, but that's one of the things that I would say is really important. Bone broth. Yeah, I mentioned that I drink bone broth every morning. It is a natural electrolyte, but during the spring, summer, and winter, or in fall, not winter, when I get up in the morning, I do start my day with a little bit. I just kind of do maybe 4 or 5 ounces of water with a little bit of just trace minerals. It's called trace minerals. And I love to add that to my water because I'm moving a lot more during those 3 seasons. During the winter, usually a lot of times that'll just be my bone broth. But during those times, that's when I do, to make sure that I stay really good and hydrated. And you can tell that you may be hydrated by, one of the biggest signs, obviously, is your skin. One of them is your fingernails, your hair. Guys, don't forget, your body is giving you signals constantly all the time. And so using the journaling, kind of like Angela was talking about, some of those things can be so key for, listening to your body and making sure that you're really replenishing with minerals. So I would say those things are actually really important to start your day with that, or to maybe even drink them a little bit throughout the day. I usually cut them off by mid-afternoon, something like that, just in case it gives you a little bit of extra minerals that you're not having to wake up and urinate at night. But so I love to do that and start my day with that way. And all of that matters, again, going back to sleep, whether or not you can go to sleep at night. Have you given yourself all the nourishment that you need during the day to be able to go to sleep at night? So that all plays into that nervous system function.
It does. And then that makes me kind of jump to, Diana, the women that we hear that are like, okay, I'm doing all of that, because guys, let's be honest, someone out there listening is like, but I'm already doing all that, and I still am having problems sleeping. And this is where I think Diana and I would be so honest to say, if you are doing all of that, now it is time to pull back, the umbrella and be like, look inside the gut and be like, okay, what's going on in there? I'm like looking down, like as if it's right below me. But like, usually this is where the GI map that we love to use from Diagnostic Solutions, it really helps see like, okay, but if you're eating the protein, maybe there's a digestive issue that you're actually not breaking all that down, and so you might be hitting all the protein. Or maybe if you're getting even the right types and timing and amounts of carbs in, maybe you're fermenting those. Maybe there's yeast under there and you don't know about it. I've seen yeast on a lot of tests, and I've said to the client, did you have any inkling that there, was an overgrowth of yeast? And they're like, no, what would I even be looking for? Like, what does that even look like? And so, yeah, guys, you could be eating the right carbs and fermenting them. And so, guys, let me kind of give you an idea of what we see on the GI map, because some of you have never seen a GI map, so you don't know, but you get to see inflammatory markers, like literally how much inflammation is happening in the colon. That is huge. We get to see if H. pylori is present, which is a nervous system bug. So if you're like, hey, I'm doing all the things, I'm checking in with myself, I'm journaling, I'm still not getting like tapping into, the nervous system, I'm still wired and tired. If that's you, it could be H. pylori. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. And that bacteria eats at your minerals. So your vitamin D, your B vitamins, your iron. And so it could be something internally that you just can't see without a GI map. We get to see your histamine loads through the opportunistic bacteria that's present. We get to see digestive markers like how is your gallbladder and your liver and your pancreas doing, because that trio is like the biggest trio that helps with digestion and detoxification, and bile, which we've talked about before on previous podcasts, that people don't even realize how important that bile is, that bile flow. And then obviously we get to look at the gut lining and just overall patterns that may be contributing to stress. I just had a consult with one of our members earlier this week, and it was very clear that there was some chronic stress going on. And I remember talking about it with that client, and that client knew, and it was pretty amazing, for me to be able to say, like, I think this is your problem. And what's interesting was also to be able to say, the reason you're not getting better is because no doctor has ever sat down with you and said that this is stress. They might have, but they didn't give you the tools. They just said, this is in your head. This is stress. Go figure it out. And what we do is we get to tell you, like, no. The way that you are perceiving the world around you, the way you're carrying your emotional stress, that's what it is. And we can walk you through how to do that better. And I think like it was just so validating and eye-opening for that person to be like, wow, you really do see me in that moment. And so guys, we get to do that with the GI map, and we get to help you with all of our resources, which I'm going to kind of turn over to Diana for a minute, but all of this is on our portal of how we walk them through this. So Diana, let me turn it over to you, because this is what you needed when you were going through the program yourself. And so speak to like how we use that GI map and all of our portal resources and stuff to really walk them through this process.
Yeah. And I love that you kind of mentioned all the other resources alongside it, because the GI map test, while it is fantastic, we love it. It gives us such a great picture. It's all of the foundational things. And just like you were talking about, doing this in a supportive community and having the resources and the tools available for you, that's where I feel like we don't talk about it much, because we talk about my transformation. But in 2017, I was rock solid. I changed my nutrition. I was hardcore. I did 100%. I never did anything wrong. I did my supplements exactly perfect. But guess what? We don't ever talk about it really, but I kind of relapsed. I kind of went backwards and went back into some of my old ways, my old habits. I wasn't sleeping again. I was getting constipated again, and I was having all these problems again. So even though the GI map tested fantastic, I was missing a lot of the tools and things that I needed for the support and for the accountability. And I was just calling you for a consult every now and then, Angela, and you weren't able to spend the time with me that every single time that I needed it. So what you and I have done is so cool. And our members are actually loving this. We have some members that have been with us for almost 4 years now. And now we've created this portal where it kind of houses everybody and all of these tools. And we do this together so that as life changes, as stress changes, as everything, our gut changes, we have kids, we have times where we have periods of loss or grieving, so many things. It brings it all together. And I love that so much about the portal. And so this is something that we're going to be talking about more on social media, on our social media pages. We're going to send you to our website. It's kind of getting totally revamped right now, and get you to, if you want just a place to get started for very inexpensive, for $15 a month, you can join in this community and really have a lot of the foundational tools and what we call our quick relief guide to kind of get you started. It's going to be more than what you get here on this podcast. And so you can do that directly from our website, gutgirls.health. Join that $15 one. We call that our tier 1. It's a self-starter. There's so much you can do in that and learn. And then when you get ready, then if you want to add the GI map test on, then you can upgrade to our other membership level at that point. But we do have some alumni that have been around for, like I said before, many, many years. Some of them, no, I said 4 years. I think it's actually been 5 years because some of them started with us in 2021. So they've been around for a long time, and they actually have great ideas. They could be gut girls themselves. They are gut girls. That's kind of what we created. That was one of your visions, is to create a bunch of mini gut girls.
Mini
right?
gut girls, yeah. We want a world of mini gut girls. Well, because it's like, this is the place where you get to show up as yourself. Even our alumni, like when new members show up and they're like, I don't even know how to take this stool test, or gosh, I seem overwhelmed. We had a client on there just a while ago that was like, I'm overwhelmed with how to swap out my pantry. And it was like, those alumni members that have been there are like, they just jump on you and they're like, this doesn't have to be all right now kind of thing. Like, this is how I did it. This is how I tinkered this in and, sprinkled this in. And gosh, it is so motivating. This is a group of women who truly see you, and they know the struggle. They know the weight that you're carrying emotionally, physically, mentally in your life. And they give you the tips and tricks, what's worked for them. It is an amazing community that just brings life out to all of our members. So if that's what you feel like you need for true healing, guys, this is where you're going to get it. It's in our memberships. And there's so many options like that, like Dinah said. But Dinah, where should they go today to get started with us if they want to?
Yeah, I would definitely go to the website, gutgirls.health. And so if you've tried all the things, sleep, and you're like, okay, I understand this. I really want to take a deeper dive into my nourishment. I hope you're collecting all of this as information, all of the sleep, the lack of sleep, waking up at 2:00 in the morning, and you're kind of like starting to piece this together, then the membership would be a great option for you. Once you do that, you could just, like I said, scroll down, click on our tier 1, and you can just go ahead and sign up today, honestly, for that, and make it super simple. You could also book a free discovery call, and we can help you figure out what path is best for you. But yeah, you can do that from our website, gutgirls.health. We hope that this will help. If you haven't tried all of these things, then try these. Certainly, we want to make sure, we want to get you sleeping. But if you want to walk alongside us in this membership, we would love to have you for that too. We will catch you guys on the next episode of the Gut Girls podcast. The Gut Girls podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We are not acting as licensed medical professionals. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your health routine.